There's a stretch of the Central Valley where the farmlands run out of things to say. East of Stockton, past the last gas stations, past the vineyards and the orchard rows. The roads narrow, and the night gets older. The Mokelumne River cuts through the country quietly. The name is Plains Miwok, commonly translated as people of the fishing nets. Most who know the river know it by daylight. Ryan's story belongs to the other hours. April 2021. The pandemic has taken almost everything from Ryan: his home, his work, the shape of his life. What he had left fits inside a van, a few belongings, his sword, and a service dog named Scooter. Ryan is a student of ninjutsu, and the sword travels with him everywhere. Protection for two beings living on the road with no door to lock but their own. He and Scooter had been in the van for months. They knew the rhythm of the nights like this one. The long drive from Valley Springs back towards Stockton, headlights pushing a small tunnel through the dark. It was around 4:30 in the morning when Ryan turned off Highway 12 onto McIntyre Road, a turn most drivers miss in daylight, marked better by the fish hatchery sign than by its own. The road runs north through the dark towards the river, ending at the fish hatchery and day-use area beneath Comanche Dam. Nothing unusual about the stop. He needed a bathroom, and the lot by Mokelumne was empty and quiet. Then the van died. The whole electrical system went out. Headlights, the dashboard, everything, all at once on the road down to the river. Ryan got out into the cold, propped the hood, worked through what he knew, and got it running again. He didn't think much of it. When you live in your vehicle, you learn its moods, and you learn not to ask too many questions of a machine that still moves. He continued down to the river, parked under the lot's single lamppost, and walked to the water. When he came back and turned the key, nothing happened. No lights, no click, not even the tired complaints of a dying battery. The van that had started 10 minutes earlier was completely dead, and this time, nothing under the hood would bring it back. The entire electrical system was gone, as if something had reached in and switched the vehicle off. It was cold. His driver's side window was still down. He would think about that window a great deal in the minutes to come. Ryan climbed back inside, and that's when he saw it. Movement into brush across the lot, maybe 50 feet away from the tree line. Something large, pushing through the grass and shrub, low and deliberate, the kind of movement that displaces branches rather than slipping between them. That tree line is one of the last wild seams in that part of the valley. The farmland took the rest long ago, and what forest remains runs in a narrow corridor along the river, pinned between the dam and the fields. Ryan knew the wildlife of that stretch of valley, and whatever was moving through the brushes sounded far larger than anything he expected to find beside the river. Then came the sound. A high, broken call like a hyena's laugh, wrong in a way that laughter should never be, and underneath it, a growl so deep he felt it in the floor of the van. The thing stepped out of the tree line on all fours and crossed into the pool of light from the lamppost. A huge creature, wolfish in build, moving with no hesitation and no fear. Predators are supposed to be cautious around vehicles and around light, around the smell of humans. This thing walked into the open like the lot belonged to it. And then it did the thing that separates a strange animal from something else entirely. It stood up. 9 feet tall, eyes that caught the lamplight and threw it back red, glowing, the way animal eyes do, except no animal stands like that. Long pointed ears swept back off its skull. A silhouette Ryan compares to the old werewolf films, and at the end of its arms, hands, not paws, hands with a claw curving off each finger. It started towards the van, upright, unhurried, 50 feet of open gravel between them, and it crossed that ground like it had crossed it before. Each step carried it in and out of the lamp light, its gaze holding steady on the van the whole way. Ryan could hear it now, the weight of it on the lot, and with every step, the van got smaller around it. Scooter broke first. A service dog spent his whole life learning to hold steady, through crowds, through noises, through everything a chaotic world throws at its person. Scooter abandoned the front seat and pressed himself into the farthest corner of the van, and if you know working dogs, you know what it takes to make one do that. Ryan grabbed the sword and followed him back. The two of them huddled there while the footsteps reached the vehicle. It began to circle. Once. Twice. Ryan tracked it by sound, by the shadow that crossed and recrossed the lamplight through the windows. 3 times. 4. It was learning the van, studying it. Then the footsteps stopped, and Ryan realized where. The driver's side, where the window was open. The creature lunged. Head, shoulders, and half its body punched through the window before the frame caught it, 4 feet from Ryan. Close enough that the smell filled the van. Rot and wet animal, and something underneath both of that he still can't name. It was growling, wrenching against the door, halfway inside a van with a man and a dog trapped in the back and nowhere left to go. The claws at the end of those hands were inside the vehicle, and everything Ryan had left in the world was behind him in the van. The math of the moment was very simple. Either the frame held it, or nothing would. Ryan did the only thing his training left him. He drew the sword and struck at whatever he could reach through the narrow space, again and again, and with the first strike, the growling became screaming, a sound at the top of its lungs that filled the cab and the lot and the dark past the lamplight. The thing thrashing against the window frame while Ryan kept striking at arm's length, one motion at a time, the way he'd been taught. Then, it tore itself free. It wrenched away from the door and fled across the lot into the tree line along the river, and it was gone. The screaming faded into the narrow corridor of forest, and the river kept moving like nothing had happened at all. And then, the van lights came on. The dash lights were first, then the headlights, throwing the empty lot back at him. The van's electrical system, dead through all of it, simply returned, and the engine turned over on the first try. Whatever had happened to the van ended the same moment the creature disappeared. Ryan says he drove out of Clements with blood inside the van and the driver's side door torn where the creature had wrenched itself free. The blood and the damage left the river with him, carried back through the remaining dark. The window rolled up the whole way. Ryan's account is not the only report of an upright canine figure from California's Central Valley. Other witnesses have described similar creatures, although these accounts remain unverified. But the mark that lasted wasn't on the door. Scooter was never quite the same after that morning. A service dog is built out of trust, and something at the Mokelumne River took a piece of that from him for good. Ryan ends his account the same way it began, with no hedging and no apology. It is 100% true. His dog agrees. So the next time your engine dies on a dark road for no reason, check the tree line before you step outside. Stay alert, stay curious, and remember, out there in the dark, much closer than most would ever believe, the Dogman is still moving. From DeadNet Studios, we bid you good night.
shadows